Hey everybody, so I basically have had for a couple of years now the top videos on how to do your own sun drop for Awaken Realm stuff. First one was on Nemesis, and now we're going to do Etherfields. So I'm going to start with Creatures of Etherfields, and I'm going to do this video a little bit differently because there's almost no likes, no comments, nothing from the community as far as information to relay back to me whether or not you liked the information that I provided last time. There's just tens of thousands of views and nobody becoming subscribers. Nobody, being a friend. Nobody sharing. Nobody doing any of the like stuff. So I don't know what you need. The box that it comes in looks like this. You get these flat gray models. And if you have anything with Etherfields, you know what this looks like. So this is just the card that everything comes with. I'm going to try to make this video as fast as possible to get you to be able to make your own sun drop. When it gets to the end, it's going to look like that. Here is the end product of what is going to happen if you do everything the way that I normally do things to get your own sun drop effect. One of the cool bits that I found is it has this metallic look on all of the initial renders, and I thought that gave a real dreamy quality to the minis, and I wanted to maintain that. I didn't really want to go in and do individual colors and that type of stuff for this particular model because it looks like it came out of Willy Wonka's toy box. You never know where in time they popped in, and I think a dream needs to feel that way. So for me, this is what the end product is going to become. Your first steps, and if you want step by step following through from priming all the way to like putting the actual color on and all that stuff with the airbrush, or cleaning up with the dry brush, you can look at my Nemesis videos. This will be included in there, and in the description you can check that out, or maybe even at the end I'll link you to the first video or the playlist that goes along with it, so you can check out how to do it step by step. It just happens to be blue there, and it's a metallic bronze here, but I'm going to give you all the paint and different things that I used to make this effect happen in basically the same type of order. And as long as you can spray with an airbrush or with the Stuart Semple made a spray bottle. It's like a super soaker, but for acrylic paint, you can use that. If you want to use your own rattle can, then you're going to have to use a different type. Maybe you can get a rattle can version of the paints that I'm using here, but maybe you can just find a similar color. That might help. You can use a brush if you want, just thin it down a lot with these metallic paints and use a bunch of coats until you're happy. So the first one, the most important one, the one that goes with this guy, is Dork Shifting Sands. So you see that moving around. Yeah, I know. Anyway, the thing about Dork is you have to use a black primer to go along with it. Okay, you don't have to use this color. There's things that you can use outside of the color, such as this guy, which is a little bit more red, and it happens to be, maybe if I put it back here, you'll see it. Is that better? Weapon Bronze from Army Painter. So when I sprayed it on, it just became a lot brighter. That one I sprayed on very heavy to give that kind of a look. I didn't know which one I necessarily wanted, but I didn't do that necessarily with everything. If I put it on very light against a black background, a black prime, you can see that the Army Painter Weapon Bronze been done with a lot of flow improver, such as Vallejo flow improver that I use for just about everything instead of water whenever I need it. If you add a lot to the Weapon Bronze, it gets pretty close to the Shifting Sands from Dork. I don't care what kind of black primer you use. I used Vallejo Flow Improver. I also used Vallejo surface primer, and that's pretty much it. You can pick which side that you want, which way that you want to use it. I tried to go back over with the shifting sands and just to see what would happen, and you can see this one here that was done first with Army Painter and then with shifting sands does not have much in the way of changes. It's only slightly brighter than the other one. It doesn't really help any. If I wanted to, I could go back through with an Army Painter or some other brand of wash. I could make a black wash if I wanted. I'm trying to find one for you right now in my stack of stuff. I should have grabbed one, but something like a strong tone wash or an extremely dark version. Of course, will be the last one I could possibly find in my stack of stuff. I got a million flesh washes, but there's a dark tone one in there somewhere that you can utilize, and you can brush on top of it. You could actually spray it on top if you have an airbrush and you want to try to use it that way. The flesh washes, the light tones, the mid tones, and all that are very brown, but they make dark tones that are more black, and you'll be able to get a little bit more in the recesses and bring it closer to what this guy in the center, what he's going to look like. So that's all of the stuff. That's the comparison. That's the quick and dirty version. Instead of spending 3 hours of making video and nobody saying thanks, I'm going to do 6 minutes and give you everything you would otherwise need, and you can learn zenithal priming from either the first video or anything else, and you can pick these up pretty much anywhere. Get your local friendly local game store to purchase. Maybe it's going to make you crazy if I stop the spinning. Okay. Get your friendly local game store to pick these up. They probably already have an Army Painter account, and you can get those. Amazon is a great place to get the primer if you don't already have one that you like. There is another company, if I spin my paint around, there's another company that I don't have the black for, but they have made some pretty good airbrush primers. This AK company, they make some pretty good primers for airbrush as well. But you can use any Army Painter version. You can do any type of spray paint one. I have those. I just prefer to use the water-based ones because they don't smell funny afterwards, like a lot of them do. So let me set it up so you can see the Army Painter side versus the Turbo Dork side, and yeah, they're pretty close. You can make a decision as to which one's better for you, and I hope that's informative and will get you on your way. Like I said, go to the Nemesis video for now if you just want to see how zenithal priming works and how to put everything on. It just is a different color. It's the same thing, different color. It goes black, goes up to gray, and then goes from there. Instead of the gray, you use the metallic. So you only use the black, and then the metallic colors instead of a white when you're going to do it in zenithal. And use a lot of flow improver to make it easier to get the chunky metallics through your airbrush, and that will also make it so that it's not as heavy as these guys in the back that went on very thick and didn't have quite as many drops of primer. I probably used 10 times more flow improver on this one here than I did on this one here. So you just like 1 drop per 10 of paint, and in this one I made like 1 drop, and then this one was like 10 drops, and then however many of the paint drops. So yeah, wait at least an hour, maybe hour and a half to 2 hours between your primer coat and your otherwise paint coat, because the paint will still be wet even though it feels dry, and it could come off, it could rub off, especially if you're going to use a brush. So if you're going to use a brush for all this stuff, wait a long time. If you are going to use a brush, get yourself a nice, thick, cheap paintbrush that's soft to do the dry brushing. You basically would just dry brush against the model with a very light coat of any of these metallics over the black, and you could get the same effect, but you will have brush strokes to some effect, and that is just an aesthetic decision for you. You will also more likely have more of the darker areas with the dry brush, more pronounced, because there won't be overspray getting into those little recesses. So that part's up to you. So for me, I'm going to tone this guy down with some type of dark tone or strong tone, get it to match this guy as best I can, or leave it alone. I don't know. Maybe I'll like it like that. Who knows? But my perfect, ideal, best paint to get the effect that looked like the one on the renders was that Shifting Sands Turbo Dork, and I think I only used maybe 1/3 of a bottle to do all of the creatures of Etherfield. So let's do a family photo. How's that sound? Alright, so that's everything. If you see your favorite, that's what it will look like using Shifting Sands over black. And you can see how those two stick out like crazy. But it's okay. It's alright. I don't know how many you're going to have on the table at one time, because I just haven't had a chance to play the game so fully to understand how it would affect my tablescape. That's okay too. But you can see what your favorite would look like using that technique, and you can go through and make a decision now whether or not you're going to do it yourself. Time-wise, the whole process of doing every single thing in the Creatures of Etherfield box, it probably took 45 minutes to prime with an airbrush. It took a day of waiting for the paint to dry, because I like to wait at least a day for the paint to dry. It took 40 minutes to decide that I don't like the Army Painter color as much as I wanted to find something else. Another 10 minutes to sort through all my stupid paints and find the Shifting Sands and go, oh, that's exactly what I was looking for, and putting that on. And another 45 minutes to paint all of the Creatures of Etherfield set. So priming and doing it the first time right means you'll probably spend 90 minutes minus some time for however much time you're going to give to let it dry. If you are not going to use a brush, then you don't have to wait as long before you go to your next coat. The Shifting Sands bottle says shake well and apply 3 to 5 thin layers with an airbrush or a hand brush. I only applied 1. And this is the look that I'm happy with and I'm going to go with. I will likely apply a high gloss varnish on top at some point after things have dried a little better. I don't know if I'm going to apply it with the airbrush or with the regular hand brushing, but it does need to get sealed up somehow, and I don't want it to get flaked off or bump or anything like that while it's coming in and out of its container of the box, because the bases do grip pretty well, and I think that it's possible it may strip some of the paint off. So at the end of the day, I will maybe put some high gloss on, but that's not information you necessarily care about. You want to know how it would look once you put paint on, because then you can decide whether or not you like gloss. And if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, that's what the comment section is for. If you want to see what the stuff that's actually in the regular box would look like if I went through this exact same process, you can leave comments and likes and subscribe and all that kind of fun stuff. And then I'll know somebody actually wants to see more of this and go from there. If you actually look and see, if you go to the Nemesis deals, there's probably only like 3 comments. One of them is mine. 1 or 2 likes, tens of thousands of views. So I just want to get the community a little better trained to understand that this is not necessarily a service provided. It takes a little bit of give and take. It's about community. It's about I gave my information to you. You can give a little bit of appreciation back, and that's really not much to ask for. It's just a couple of clicks versus me doing hours and hours of taking video, setting things up, setting up cameras, fighting the cameras to get the paint on, and then doing editing and all that kind of fun stuff on top of it. So if you wouldn't want somebody to ask you to go through all of that effort, you can show your appreciation that somebody already went and did for you by moving your finger a very small amount of space and pressing subscribe or like and saying thanks. It's just how the world works. So hopefully it was useful, and if it was, you'll let me know. Oh, and real quick, just so I don't have to make another video later in case you wanted to see it, this is what the tone down using dark tone on the Army Painter Bronze looks like. It's close, but it's not perfect, but it's probably as close as I'm going to get having to fix the paint from before without having to strip the model and go through and all that stuff. So if you end up in the same situation, maybe you like this better. Maybe you like the look of it better where it has just a little more red and it's a little bit brighter tone as opposed to something that looks a little darker. That part's up to you. I'm not judging. Have fun with it. Hope you enjoyed it.